Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be reviewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27-24 loss versus the Los Angeles Rams. The Buccaneers fall to 7-4 on the season with an upcoming matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. We will talk about that game another time. The Buccaneers continue their struggles in primetime games on both the offensive and defensive sides of the football, and we will talk about those negatives here in a little bit, but I do want to highlight some positives first, some good silver lining takeaways that we can take away from this game. I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear right now. I know a lot of people are frustrated. I don't blame you. I am frustrated too, but there are still some positives. First three guys I want to mention: Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. Antonio Brown, 13 targets, 8 receptions, 57 yards. Chris Godwin, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Mike Evans, 9 targets, 5 receptions, 49 yards, and a touchdown. All three of those guys had a pretty decent game today, all in their own right, all in very different ways. Antonio Brown made some very good catches to get first downs and things along those lines. Mike Evans gave some great effort in getting a touchdown. Same thing can be said with Chris Godwin. So all three guys went out there and tried their hardest, and the Buccaneers did pass the ball a lot, for sure. And all three of those wide receivers did a pretty good job. On the defensive side of the football, I do want to point out Lavonte David, 9 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. Another good game by Lavonte David. Devin White, 9 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Jordan Whitehead had 7 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, and he also had an interception as well. A lot of guys finished this game with a lot of tackles. Sean Murphy-Bunting had 10. He had 2 tackles for loss. Antoine Winfield Jr. had 9 total tackles. Jason Pierre-Paul, he had a great game, 6 total tackles, 2 pass deflections, and an interception. So all these guys were able to tackle a lot and get good stats numbers, but stats can sometimes be misleading, and we will talk about that here in a moment. But those were kind of some of the more notable names. Will Golston had 2 quarterback hits, so that's very good for him as well. And Ryan Suckup made all of his kicks. He had 3 extra points and 1 made field goal, and that's pretty much it in terms of the positives. There really isn't much more to gain. I mean, Tom Brady had 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns themselves are positive. Leonard Fournette had 1 rushing touchdown. That in of itself is positive, but that's pretty much it in terms of the positives. And with that being said, I now want to focus on some of the more negative things that happened in this game. First things first, tackling. The tackling was not good in this game. A lot of guys were missing their first opportunities to bring down runners for the Rams, not necessarily in the running game, but especially in the passing game. I mean, the Rams only threw to 2 guys tonight: Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and it worked. Cooper Kupp finished this game with 11 receptions, 145 yards, and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 12 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown. A lot of that was from yak, yards after the catch, and a lot of it was also because of poor tackling. Now, the secondary should not be excused either. They could not cover those 2 guys no matter what happened, nor could the linebacking core either. So in terms of pass coverage on Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, that also struggled as well as the tackling. Just was not a good look for this Buccaneers defense in that first half, specifically in terms of tackling and coverage. Now in the second half, they did a lot better, but in the first half, it was just really bad, and things got out of hand relatively quickly. But that was the first thing I wanted to make a note of, is the tackling, and I guess I rambled a little bit into the pass coverage and overall defensive performance in the first half. Another thing I want to mention is some drive-killing penalties. There weren't a lot of them, but there were enough to be frustrating. I know the big one was Shaq Barrett had an offsides on the defensive side of the football that gave the Rams an automatic first down. I've mentioned it before, and I will mention it again. We cannot have plays like that and expect to win as a football team. It really is just kind of inexcusable in certain situations, and that Shaq Barrett situation was one of them, so we cannot have situations like that. Another thing that was very frustrating tonight, running back drops in the passing game. Ronald Jones had a couple of drops. Leonard Fournette had a couple of drops, and it was so frustrating to watch. I was honestly surprised they didn't put Kenyon Barner or even LeSean McCoy out there, although I guess at that point you would telegraph that you would be passing the ball. But Ronald Jones and Fournette just could not catch the ball tonight. It was very, very frustrating. I know a lot of you guys were frustrated with it as well. It's something that's been a problem for those running backs this season, and I don't know how to correct it besides just having those guys work so freaking hard on catching the ball with the jugs machine or whatever you got to do. You got to work on catching the football because that's a big piece of this offensive game that is gone if you are getting running back drops week in and week out. Second half blocking also struggled a lot. Tom Brady was getting hit plenty of times. I would even say a little bit into the first half as well. Aaron Donald was applying a lot of pressure. The Rams outside linebackers were applying a lot of pressure as well. Didn't result in a ton of sacks for the Rams. They only finished with 1 sack on the night, but Tom was certainly getting pressured in terms of the overall blocking. Could have been better. I know Ali Marpet was out, and I know Donovan Smith was dealing with an injury, and those are good reasons as to why the offensive line struggled, but in terms of other things that happened in this game, Tom Brady was dealing with long developing plays and things like that, and it just led to him getting hit a bunch, and it was very frustrating to see. Offensive line can block better, and they should block better here in the future, although I will talk about some other things that could have led to Tom Brady getting hit as much as he did in a moment. Another thing that I do want to mention here, speaking of Tom Brady, he did have 2 interceptions on 2 what I have seen is very badly thrown deep balls. Both of them were intercepted by some safeties there for the Rams. And really as a whole, Tom Brady's deep ball did not look good. I don't know what it was tonight. I don't really know what it has been for most of the season. I mean, he used to hit the deep ball with Scotty Miller a ton, right? We saw that. He would hit it about 2 times a game. But seemingly he can't hit the deep ball with many other guys. And I know that there are some certain situations where he might have hit Mike Evans on a couple of deep balls, Chris Godwin, among others, but just lately, it's been a very noticeable problem. Tom Brady's deep ball, it's not that he's underthrowing or anything like that. The arm strength is there. I don't know if it's a lack of chemistry. I don't know if it's just bad throws by Tom Brady. It could be really any one of those things, and you could tell me that, and I would probably believe you. It might be a combination of all of those things. But regardless, Tom Brady's deep ball is not working, and I don't know what needs to be done to correct that problem. But I do think it can be corrected, and I do think it will be corrected. It just needs to iron out some of the kinks, I guess. I'm not sure. But, the point is that Tom Brady's deep ball did not work in this game at all. I want to say he tried it around 8 times tonight versus the Rams, and I didn't see it work a single time. Maybe besides like a pass interference call that Jalen Ramsey got on Mike Evans. Aside from that, I did not see a single deep ball work for Tom Brady in this game. So I want you guys to leave me your thoughts about that down in the comment section below. Why do you feel Tom Brady is struggling so much with the deep ball as of late? Is it coaching? Is it chemistry? Is it Tom Brady himself? Leave me your thoughts because, in my opinion, it could be a combination of all 3 things, and I feel like all 3 of those things can be corrected. So let's just pay attention to see how Tom Brady's deep ball improves here in the future. But finally, guys, the last thing I want to mention in terms of the negative as a whole is the weird play calling that went on both on the offensive side of the football and the defensive side of the football. Now, in the first half, it was the defense that was more confusing to me than the offense. I mean, the offense as a whole was very confusing throughout most of the game, but the defense, so much zone coverage, the middle of the field, time and time and time again, was getting attacked by Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and it just seemed like no adjustments were made. Now, in the second half, the defense actually played very good football. They forced multiple punts. They had a missed field goal. I believe they got an interception or 2. I know they at least got 1 interception in the second half. But in that first half, the first quarter and a half, I want to say, was just so weird in terms of defensive play calling, and I didn't like it. I know a lot of people in the live stream chat did not like it either, and again, I will say this here. I'm not an NFL coach. I don't know the great X's and O's of what makes a good play, or what makes a bad play call a bad play call, but I will say that just in my, untrained opinion here, the defensive play calling was a struggle to watch there in the first half. On the offensive side of the football, I feel the Buccaneers should have ran the ball more. Again, untrained opinion here. This guy's pretty much an idiot, but I feel like the Buccaneers could have done to run the ball more. Now, again, they had 18 carries on the night for 42 yards and 1 touchdown. That's 2.3 yards an attempt. They did have 18 attempts. The Rams finished the night with 20 attempts, 37 yards for 1.9 yards an attempt. So they did try a little bit to run the ball, but I feel like, you know, Tom Brady shouldn't be passing the ball 48 times. And I know that this was a problem with Jameis Winston that a lot of people pointed out, and that's going to be the last I mention of him. But Tom Brady throwing the ball 48 times, it just seemed like the offense was out of rhythm. The defense was getting onto the field way too many times. The Buccaneers had 5 punts in the game. And just as a whole, I would have liked to have seen more ground control and more time control from this offense. And I do want to mention here, with the passing plays that the Buccaneers called, these long developing routes, you know, the deep shots, all these things, Tom Brady waiting for these plays to develop, that could be another reason as to why he was getting hit so many times, because he had to wait for these long plays to develop. Again, it's another thing that we've seen in the Buccaneers past with other quarterbacks. You know, these long developing plays, the quarterback has to wait for these plays to develop, and it results in him getting hit a lot of the time. I've seen, you know, a lot of people the past few weeks call for Byron Leftwich to stop calling plays and hand it over to Bruce Arians and all these things. I don't know what the answer is. In my opinion, I would have ran the ball more and I would have focused more on the short passing game. But that's just my opinion, my untrained opinion. Again, I will never be a coach in the NFL, and I want your guys' thoughts again on that as well. What are your thoughts on Byron Leftwich's play calling in this game? Was it good? Was it bad? And what would you have done differently, regardless of how you felt about it? In my opinion, I would have ran the ball more, and I definitely would have done more short passing instead of these long developing passing plays that lead to your quarterback getting hit more. Those are just kind of my thoughts there. But guys, that's really it. That's kind of all I've got for this review. Let me know your thoughts about all this down in the comments section below. I hope I didn't come off as too frustrated in this review. I am a little fired up about this game because I feel like there were so many different things that could have been corrected in different times that could have gave the Buccaneers a better chance to win this game. But it is what it is. We burn the tape and we move on to Kansas City. That's just kind of how it is. But another, frustrating loss here. That makes really all four of the Buccaneers' losses here have been so frustrating on the year, with the Bears, the Rams, and then both those Saints games. Pretty frustrating. The Buccaneers are 7-4. I think everything will be okay, guys. I think they will be a playoff team, but there's still a lot of stuff that they need to iron out and work on, and they're running out of time here before playoff time to make these corrections. So let's see what happens. But guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs. See you guys soon.